Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We finally have a good size estimate for Interstellar Object 3I Atlas, and that reveals a lot more about our solar system and our interstellar environment than you may think. That estimate now is based off of all the imagery that we have captured via Hubble since November, going all the way through January of 2026. Hubble's been taking a lot of imagery of 3I Atlas post-perihelion, and some numbers are crunched, and we got a size estimate of 1.3 kilometers in radius, plus or minus 0.2 kilometers for the variance. That is a diameter of 2.6 kilometers across. So less than 2 miles in diameter. This is a big object, making it significantly more massive than 2I Borisov and also 1I Oumuamua, the other two interstellar objects that have been detected. So it is not as large as some of the early estimates that came out, which were up to 50 kilometers in diameter. That would have been wild. It's in a more normal range for, let's say, a comet like from our solar system, but clearly this is a large object, some sort of planetesimal that was flung out of whatever system it was in, and then, well, it was sent on a collision course towards our solar system. Here we actually see Interstellar Object 3I Atlas flying through space thanks to TESS imagery or TESS imagery, going from January 15th to the 18th, though there is a time gap in the middle because there was a solar panel malfunction. They weren't able to get data. Either way, they collected a whole bunch of images of Interstellar Object 3I Atlas, stacked them, and then created this composite video here. And we see it basically flying through space like that. The background is moving because they've kept 3I Atlas fixed in frame. We do not see evidence of a sunward facing tail in this. It's odd that sometimes we see that, other times we don't, depending on how we process the data. And well, the latest data actually indicates that it's not sunward facing, it's an anti-velocity vector tail. So if 3I Atlas is moving this way, there's been some dust particles and grains and more that have been pushing out the other direction. Of course, in general, when we're talking about the space environment, we also have to consider plasma. So there's a lot of electromagnetic processes here as well. But the bigger story here really is that now that we have this size estimate based off of an albedo of 0.04, we can start to calculate what the probability is of an object of this size, or just in general for interstellar objects to be in our solar system, because now we have these all sky surveys that are always taking photos of the sky, tracking different points of light. 3I Atlas right now has a magnitude, it's much dimmer than the human eye can see, but for these all sky surveys, it's no problem. But we've only seen 3 interstellar objects: Oumuamua, Borisov, 3I Atlas. We haven't seen more than that, but we've had telescopes and all these observation stations and observatories and more for a lot longer than that. So if there have been other interstellar objects flying through our solar system, we seem to have missed them in the past. And this size estimate for 3I Atlas allows us to calculate the probability that there is an interstellar object within the near local solar system at any given moment. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about in today's video. Let's get right into it. Here we have our 3D solar system visualization tool provided by The Sky Live, linked in the video description. We have talked about interstellar objects being in our solar system before on this channel, how there's probably a whole bunch that haven't been detected. Now we have some more concrete numbers as to how many that would be and within what range. And so we see 3I Atlas here flying in from outside the orbit of Neptune back in 2016. If I go forward to where it is now, you'll see in 2026 that it is approaching Jupiter. Let me go back to February 1st here. We'll see that 3I Atlas is getting close to Jupiter right now, in between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter in the asteroid belt. And Jupiter is at 5.2 astronomical units. So the sun would be 0. An astronomical unit is the distance, 1 at least, is the distance from the sun to the Earth. Mars is further out than Earth. It's like 1.5 to 1.7 or so. Then you go to Jupiter. It's a bit more of a jump. It goes about 5 or 5.2 astronomical units. That's where Interstellar Object 3I Atlas is right now, though eventually it will fly by Jupiter, its closest approach on March 17th, and then it will continue on through the solar system. Now, based off of this size estimate of 3I Atlas, the size estimates of Borisov and also Oumuamua, and also their frequency in time, like 2017, 2019, 2025, 2026, we can calculate the rough estimate of probability of there being an interstellar object at any given time within the orbit of Jupiter. Specifically, the research paper I'm referencing, which is linked in the video description, is calculated it for 4.5 astronomical units, which is closer in than Jupiter. And their calculation was that there should be probably one interstellar object per year that flies through that region of space. So this circle like that. Well, 3I Atlas has this ballistic trajectory here. It's just only slightly being deviated by the sun is flying off. It's the fastest ever object observed in space. And we imagine that there's going to be quite a wide range of velocity for these interstellar objects. And that's a key defining characteristic of them, is that they don't have an orbit that's going to bring them back to the sun. They have this hyperbolic trajectory, which will just basically take them straight out. They'll fly in, have some sort of deviation, but they won't come back. And so the fact that this latest data indicates, and take this with a grain of salt, but this latest data indicates that we should have about one interstellar object per year within this zone. And we really haven't seen that. We've only seen 3, and Oumuamua flew very close in to the sun within the orbit of Mercury. Borisov is also quite close. 3I Atlas is further out. That's 2017, 2019, 2025. Why haven't we seen more? We've had these all-sky surveys for more than just a year now, right? We've had them for a while. We've clearly missed some of these objects, or we did happen to have just a weird gap in these interstellar flybys. But let's expand out a little bit, because that's the math for within 4.5 astronomical units. Here we have the orbit of Neptune, and this is the edge of the classic, like the kind of the traditional solar system, is that you have the sun, and then Neptune's at 30 astronomical units, and maybe even you want to go out to Pluto, which is 50 astronomical units. But once you get beyond the orbit of Neptune and Pluto, you're really firmly in the Kuiper belt, and we have limited data on the Kuiper belt compared to the solar system within the orbit of Neptune. Well, look how much wider of an area this is. And also, it's not just simply right within the ecliptic plane. You can also have objects down here, down there. For example, if we type in UN 271, we'll see where it's located. It is directly below right now the inner solar system, like that, and that is quite a unique object. And so the fact that we're not seeing these objects in these parts of the sky does not mean that they're not there. That is the key thing. And if we're supposed to be having one about every year within the orbit of Jupiter, imagine how many are spread out across the solar system at any given moment in time, with a variety of speeds and a variety of sizes, and also a variety of activities. Some of them are going to be much more active than others in terms of doing outbursts of activity and more. That's the other thing too. It's a one-time flyby. So if it's really fast, then we have less chance to see it if maybe the all-sky survey is focusing over here, and now it's actually, let's say, down here underneath the ecliptic plane off to the other side. So as more observatories come online, we're going to be finding more and more of these interstellar objects. But the real takeaway that I have is that in the future, we're going to be finding them more, and we'll be able to characterize them and kind of explore into their energy signature, things of that nature. But how much of an impact did these ISOs have in the past that we really don't know? Because if they're there, it doesn't mean that just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not impacting us. I think the act of observation does increase the participation by directional flow of energy, and therefore the impact it has on us that way. But just before we discovered Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto, doesn't mean those planets weren't affecting our solar system gravitationally, and also us consciously and more. they had an impact. We just didn't know about them. They were more in our subconscious. So we've been having these ISOs fly through our solar system at a pretty high percentage, it seems. Now, based off of this latest data, then we would have thought, and that they've been interacting with our deeper subconscious mind than we've realized up until this moment in time. This right now is the moment of discovery that these interstellar forces have been much more active in our energy sphere, our consciousness, and with our evolution than we thought was the case. And so that's very much a Saturn-Neptune signature for sure, which we have that great conjunction coming up on February 20th. Saturn applying to Neptune could be interpreted as we have this manifestation of these cosmic energies within our local realm and in our 3D plane that we can tangibly see and observe and connect with. And Neptune applying to Saturn is this dissolution of the old boundaries and limits that we had before. So we didn't even know about these ISOs. Of course, people, had hypothesized that you could have a comet come in from outside the solar system, but we had never seen them. Now, all of a sudden, we're seeing them, and in a big way. 3 in less than 10 years, but it looks like we should actually be seeing about 1 every year, and I think those are probably going to come in clusters, and it's not going to be totally homogeneous. So maybe at sometimes there's like 2 or 3 of them within that orbit of Jupiter. Other times there's 0 for longer periods. But when you zoom out to this scale for Neptune, which I would consider the typical limit of, it's not a limit, but the typical zone of heightened energy connection to Earth, the Sun, and all the other planets, there's probably a whole bunch that are flying around just in general and probably right now. And again, it's not just along the ecliptic plane, it's also above and below, which is simply what's the vector distance from that object to the Earth. So this area right there with Jupiter, look how much smaller that is than the collective area there of Neptune, or rather the collective volume. So we probably have a bunch of ISOs right now in our local part of space that we are completely unaware of, but that may change very soon in the future as these really incredible all-sky survey observatories continue to come online, capture the data, crunch it, process it, and then present that to the public. So on that note, I have a recommendation for all of you watching who are interested in doing this. This is the perfect time right now to enter into a state of meditation, to extend outwards, and to connect to these other potential ISOs, these interstellar objects. Of course, 3i Atlas is still there as well. It's on its way to Jupiter at this moment in time, and that is one of these amplifying factors for that sort of activity, because Jupiter is this planet that's connecting to higher realms and that spiritual energy. And so the fact that 3i Atlas is getting closer to Jupiter, it's almost like you have this receiver getting next to the big receiver, amplifying the ability to pull in signal. We have Saturn and Neptune right now in their conjunction, getting close, but very close together already. That's increasing the overall ability of these sort of interstellar explorations, you could say. And so I know some of you are really into that. You're really good and gifted at that. I would recommend you do that in your spare time and leave a comment below with what you found if you feel called to share. That's it for today's video. I'll keep you up to date on Interstellar Object 3i Atlas as it continues to fly out of our solar system towards Jupiter. But I think the bigger story here really is that it's not just one interstellar object, Oumuamua or Borisov or 3i Atlas. It's that we've been surrounded by them, not just for years or for decades, but for thousands and thousands of years. And we're just now coming into an awareness of that, and just baby steps in terms of understanding what that actually means for us here energetically and also consciously, and how this connects us to the wider galaxy and cosmos at large. So I'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening with our interstellar environment, our cosmic environment, of course, with our sun and here on Earth. So please subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date. I release videos almost daily. Smash that thumbs up button. It helps the channel grow. It really does. Thank you all so much. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next video.